when we started talking about doing a fundraiser, I said I got to write a speech, and I had no time to do that. So I do have a written speech, and I let Meredith read it. She's the English scholar in our house, and she doesn't like that speech, so you're going to have to bear with me because she didn't like it last night at 12 o'clock when we got home from the movies. Before we do that, I want to go through and thank some people that helped me. So if you hear your name, please stand and be recognized. Brett Wilson. Ralph Wells. John Leach. Mike Zapp. The Democratic Women. Dennis Julius. Kevin Anderson. Terry Hicks. Jen Anderson. Deborah Henderson. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. I appreciate everybody's help. These people that I just mentioned either knocked on doors with us, or they made phone calls, they went out and raised money, they donated, they supported us in this campaign, and this us and we that I talk about is everybody in this room. So we appreciate that. Next, I want to recognize some people who are running for office and elected politicians. Our first is Heidi Sellers, running for state representative. Next, I have Nathan Samuels, Teresa Butter of Perkins, Summer School Board, Dale Pop. I want to recognize Judge Vicki Carmichael, who's here tonight. Kevin Vissing, running for County Council. Joe Hubbard, running for County Council. Perry Smith, running for County Council. I'm going to introduce Miguel Hampton, running for Commissioner. And last but not least, and he's not here, is Huck Coots. And me and Huck go back 30 years. We appreciate these people. You know, they say, go ahead and run. And when we first started this is what they would say, Josh, go ahead and run. And I dodged them for about 6 to 8 months. And finally, they cornered me down. So when somebody runs, you don't realize how much time and energy that takes. So those people, you know, really deserve a round of applause. So. I'm going to do the best I can to read this speech that my wife doesn't like. I'm going to add a few things to it here and there. I just want to thank my family for their love and support running. This recount was a real hard process. So, you know, I work 3 12s, which turns into about 13 and a half hours. So when you have to take one of those days off, you got to make it up somewhere. So of course we would try to do that and go to court the next day. It was a little rough, but after I came home, the girls were in school and got home, and Meredith brought them home, and we're sitting there, and I said, you'll never believe what happened today. And they're looking at me, and they said, what? I said, well, we won. We won. Yeah. And they said, well, can we go get some ice cream? So, of course, you know, we went and got some ice cream. So, you know, here we are in this recount. On election night, we were at the Knights of Columbus. We knew that there was 1,000 absentee ballots that hadn't been counted. And I think it was probably about 9 o'clock. And on election day, you're going from about 5 in the morning to all 30 precincts. And you're shaking people's hands. You're seeing people that you hadn't seen in 20 years. And you're telling people, you know, go vote for me. You know who I am. And so we're sitting there, and you know, the numbers were real close between me and my 2 opponents. And I told Meredith, I said, you know, I haven't ate. I'm going to get something to eat. My kids again said, can we have Taco Bell? So there we go to Taco Bell. Now we had all drove separate because we had divided those precincts out so that we all just can conquer that together. And so they're still eating their tacos, and I said, you know, I'm done. I'm going home. I go home and I thought, I'm going to bed. It'll be on the news tomorrow who won. But my legs can't take no more of this standing. So I think about 1:12 in the morning, Tommy called me, and he said, "Hey, you done it. You won." And I said, "How much we win by?" He says, "You won by 14 votes." I said, "You think they'll file a recount?" He says, "You know they're going to." So, we go into this recount, and they filed this paperwork, said that I wasn't who I was, that I had spelled my name wrong. And let me tell you, when a license branch spells your name wrong, you don't get to change it. You just leave it alone, And so that we left that alone. We did kind of pursue that a little bit. I think we're still waiting on the answer to that, though, Mosley.
You are Josh Rodriguez.
So, I want to thank David Mosley for being a great friend, an attorney. There was a couple of times there. In this recount, you see what happened is we had one side, and I don't want to put two sides against each other, but that's exactly what it was. And you had a recount team of 10 people on each side, and then there was a third candidate that brought his own counters. And it was made for chaos, so that votes weren't counted.
That's right.
And at 9:30 at night on election night on November 3rd, I went home because I knew how hard we had worked. We knocked on about 18,000 doors. We went to every chicken dinner and fish fry. We donated, I can't tell you how many baskets. We didn't collect any money from any businesses. We didn't collect any money from any special interest. It was people in this room and the grassroots effort that we did. We raised about $11,000, and that's how we won. So we go into this recount, and immediately they didn't want to count the absentee ballots. They had first said 3,500, and then it came down. Sorry, Teresa. Then it came down to 1,000, and then it came down to maybe right at around 289 votes or ballots that had been remade because of a clerical error from the voting machine, the printer. So it's kind of, to put it in layman's terms, like a Scantron, and my in-laws are retired teachers, they can appreciate this. So, if you program the Scantron and you put something through wrong, it spits it back out. And so they had teams of Democrats and Republicans that went through and remade these ballots according to the state election board. So they didn't make that up. That's not made up. The paper didn't report that, and that's the true story here, is that was equally done. We didn't go in there and cheat. We didn't pay anybody to do that. We put responsible people in there to count those ballots and count every vote that was marked. So we go through court, and we're listening to them not count these votes. And in District 1, and we had 117 votes total, I think. And I don't want to get on Nathan, but I did beat him in District 1. But I had 27 absentee ballots in that district. And they didn't count any of them. But the miracle of it was they counted everybody else's absentee ballots. So then they go back in the little quarters of judges' chambers, and they come back out and they say, hey, we're going to give you 11 of those. Well, we all had the same numbers in front of us. So Mosley objects, and you had the two commissioners that were against us that they objected to his objection. And so we go through this to about 10, and my wife's probably going to get mad at me, but I wouldn't be up here. And I'd much rather have on a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. And I told David, I said, hey, you're going to have to take a 10-minute recess, because these guys are over there cheating. And that's not right. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I'm going to throw them two out of here. So David says, well, just calm down. He grabs my leg. I said, you get on the judge. And he says, Judge, Your Honor, can we get a 10-minute recess? And we go and I get a Coke and we come back in. And so we went through that process through 30 precincts. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not a politician. As Nathan said, I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 22 years. When I go to work, I don't cheat. You want some pain medicine and you got a pain issue, I bring it to you. If you need something for nausea, I bring it to you because it's the right thing to do. So we go through that process and we're at the end of it. And we won our appeal that we get to have a new recount. They assigned the recount to John Grannon, Abe Navarro. I think Nancy McDevitt was going to be on that team, and Bubby Vissing was going to be the mechanic on it. And we felt quite comfortable because Kevin Vissing, his numbers didn't change. And Mr. Lemaster's up in Sellersburg numbers didn't change. And he won by 4 votes. So we were quite comfortable that we had won that election, that we did not cheat, that we didn't have people remaking ballots the wrong way. So we go and we're sitting there, and I think Mr. Wilder had filed 7 motions that morning, maybe throwing out everything he could at the judge. And, you know, he wanted to keep Steve Webb on the council. He wanted to send this case to the Supreme Court, send it to the appellate court, and I've lost.
It's hard to remember them all.
It's hard to remember them all. And so the judge denies all of his motions, and Mr. Wilder, in his frenzy of motions and denials, forgets what's what. So the judge tells him to grab a pen and write this down. And he says, I'm going to deny your motion to stay Steve Webb. I'm going to deny your motion for this recount, this new recount. And he runs down all of them. He says, but I am going to recount you one. I'm going to give you one motion. And he says, we're going to give you the motion for a new judge. And I look over at David, and David looks at me, and Judge Adams says, but I am going to do a couple things here before I give you all that. I'm going to certify election day results. I'm going to place Mr. Rodriquez on the city council seat that he won in November. Are there any questions? I look at Mosley and I said, did we just win? And he looks back at me and he says, I think we just did. And so after that, the court adjourned. All the supporters that were there left, and me and Mosley go over and talk. And this whole time I want to tell you that we had a lot of integrity. We shook their hand when they cheated us. We were polite to them. We never said a bad word about them. And I still don't. But I will tell you that when Mr. Mosley said, hey, we're going to be gentlemen and we're going to go shake their hand, I had no issue with it. But when they didn't shake our hand, I had a lot of problems with that. And we walked out. David says, hey, I don't want you gloating. Don't, you know, I know you want to smile real big, but don't gloat. I get in my car, I go home, and I take off the suit that I had on, and I get in my car and go eat lunch. It's about lunchtime, and David Mosley calls me, and he says, where you at? And I said, I'm going to go get lunch. Where you at? I thought you had court. He says, well, I want you to know something. I said, what's that? He says, okay, gloat right now. You know, I had a big grin on my face. You know, we ran a positive campaign. We had a lot of integrity. We had vision in our campaign, and that vision is ready to start. We're going to do as much as we can with the help that we have on the city council. You know, a lot of people probably don't know this in this room, but you need at least 6 votes to get anything passed through there. Because if you only have 5, the mayor can veto it. We are going to work with everybody on city council. We're not going to be an obstacle in the progress of Jeffersonville. So keep that in mind. There's lots of things coming for this city. There's lots of growth in River Ridge. There's lots of growth downtown. We have a bridge that brings 150,000 people over in the peak months. We need some good businesses down here. You know, we are going to be seeing a lot of growth out there in River Ridge where tax abatements, as Representative Gooden talked about, and we need to hold them accountable. And it's going to take everybody's help in this room to do these things. We got a lot of people in this room. And David, there is some Republicans in this room. I just want you to know.
I don't really hate them.
So, you know, we got county races coming up. We have you have some sheets on your tables. They're sign-in sheets. So what I'd like for you to do is sign those sheets if you're interested in helping somebody. And that is a big step for people at times, for you maybe to make phone calls or knock on doors. If you're uncomfortable doing that, please don't sign up, okay? We do appreciate your support. We appreciate you being here tonight. It is a fundraiser. You know, I think somebody said that I think Brett Wilson said, if we knew it was going to cost $15,000, we could have just raised $4,000 more and won. So keep that in mind. I appreciate you coming tonight. I do want to tell you about the ballots in November. So my race, my at-large race, caused a change in the ballot. So you can no longer mark a straight party ticket for the at-large race. Okay? So this November, you're going to have to go and vote for your candidates. Okay? So turn your ballot over. Vote from the back to the front. So you don't miss that race. There's going to be a lot on that ticket. Again, I appreciate. I got one more thing I want to talk about. Is Susan Pop has taken a lot of heat for this at-large race. And let me tell you something. Susan didn't count no votes down there in the basement of the courthouse. No. She was put on the stand, and they ridiculed her for a misprint that a company did that was not her fault. Now, that is her job, and she may have known that those ballots were like that, but that she didn't put us through this. So don't believe what you read in the paper. I do like quotes, presidential quotes, and I do have two of them I want to leave you with. And this is for this one's for Mosley. So this is a Ben Franklin quote. It says, "Tricks and treachery are the practice of fools that don't have brains enough to be honest." So you can read between the lines on that one. And then the other one is a John F. Kennedy quote, and I appreciate Brian Ridings putting this in the speech. It says, "Let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democratic answer, but the right answer. Let us not seek to fix the blame for the past. Let us accept our own responsibility for the future." Thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank Gail for filming and taking pictures. She's been a great supporter. Thanks again. It's good seeing everybody. Everybody stay positive and come out and vote in November.